If you're thinking about going to consulting, then this video is for you. Most people, 99% of them, when they think about consulting, think about this one. They think of McKinsey, Bain, BCG, Deloitte, PwC, all that good stuff. And they try and put all the recruiting efforts into here. However, if you're really interested in the money, the exit options, and just generally learning a lot of things, this might also be a really good option for you, particularly if you're someone who likes working with data and developing hard skills. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between this and why 99% of people who chase this might be better off pursuing this instead. First, my eraser's not so good. All right, let's be honest. If you're interested in consulting, you're probably doing it for a couple of reasons. One, it pays a lot of money. It's one of the few jobs where out of undergrad you can make six figures. That's true across economic consulting and management consulting. Two, exit options. Yes, this is very important. Most people go into consulting actually don't know what the hell they want to do with their lives. That was definitely me too when I went into consulting out of undergraduate. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to make money and I wanted to learn a lot of things, and I wanted the things that I learned to be useful after I left. Because if you're doing consulting, 80% of you are probably not going to stick around for a very long time. You're going to do a couple of years and then you're going to go to something else. So you really want to know what those other things are. And then finally, is it fun or interesting? Hard to say whether it's fun. Some of the things that you learn can be really fun and exciting if you're someone who enjoys that kind of stuff. So is the work interesting? And is it something that you'd actually enjoy? I don't think a lot of people ask themselves this question because these two things are so appealing and it offers a lot of job security for your career. So we're going to spend a couple minutes on this, and this. First one, super simple. If my marker's about dying. There we go. First one, super simple. If you're interested in consulting, econ consulting or management, you're going to get paid pretty similarly. At the bottom end, at your base salary, and this is for US, you're going to make around $80,000. On the upper end, you can make as high as about $120,000. That is literally straight out of undergrad, and that's just your salary. A lot of times these places also have signing bonuses, so let me just get this stuff out of the way. So base, 80 to 100K. It's a lot of money. Next, signing bonus. Somewhere between 5 and 15,000. You might see some firms that offer more than 15,000 depending on the year, the cycle, but usually I wouldn't expect more than 15,000 for a signing bonus. And then you also have an annual bonus at the end. Some firms, they'll give you a fixed bonus, so you might get just say 10 to 20K. Others, it's a percentage based on how much you've worked. So in consulting, across econ and management, it's billable hours. You get charged by clients hourly, and so if you bill a ton of hours, you might get a very large bonus. This was the case at the firm where I was at, where you do not have a set bonus. So if you've worked a crazy amount of hours, let's say like 2,500 in the year, you could get a pretty fat 30, 40, maybe even $50,000 bonus at the end of the year. This is your first year out of undergrad. That is a lot of money. This is true. Management, econ, you can look the numbers. I'll post a link below. You can check them for yourself. It varies across firms, but generally in the US, you're going to be making these ranges across both. So money, check. Same across both. Okay, next, exit options. I really wish I had a red marker so I could draw this out. Exit. In strategy consulting, there are a couple of options that are super popular. First, B school, which is weird. You go to work for a couple of years to go back to school, and then some of them will then go back into consulting afterwards. So B school, back into consulting. Other things that people go to B school for, you can work in tech. A lot of people are interested in being like a product manager or working in strategy and operations. You can also go to finance. Some people like to work in PE, IB, VC. Finance really likes their different acronyms. Usually consultants have a pretty good, strong background in that, and then they go to school, they network a ton of people, and then they go on to one of those routes. There's also people who work in startups, other things, run their own companies. It's pretty a small category of people, so we're not going to focus on them. Basically, strategy consulting, go to B school, go do one of these things. Some people also just skip B school and do one of these three things directly. Really up to you. Econ consulting, actually, number one exit option, guess what? B school. And then guess what people go into afterwards? You guessed it. This, and this. Those are literally the three most common exit options for people who go to economic consulting. There are a couple other options that people do, and that's based on the nature of the work that I'll talk about in a little bit. But in addition to going to business school, a lot of people also do data scientist type work. I'm gonna put that down here. I'm just gonna put DS, data scientist, DA, data analyst, and then I'm just gonna put econ here for people who end up working in economic think tanks or go back to school and get a PhD in economics. And it's implied in the name. In economic consulting, you do a lot more economics, you do a lot more statistical modeling. So these kind of more technical fields become more available to you because of the skills you learn in economic consulting. Final piece, interesting, question mark. This one, kind of up to you. So most people already know about strategy consulting. What do you do as a strategy consultant? Here's what happens typically. Say this is you. You are strategy consultant, right? Someone gives you a problem, and it usually is a should type of question. Should I do this or should I do that? A business might come to you and say, hey, should I create a new product? Let's call it just A. Keep it nice and simple, right? Should I create product A? You then go talk to some people, talk. You look at some data. Those are just cubes, boxes of data. And then you spit that out into another giant cube, which is a PowerPoint. And then you make a PowerPoint, and you or your team will present that to the client. You have to talk to a lot of people on the client site. You combine these things together, and then you make a deck and deliver that deck. This is 90% of the work of a junior consultant doing strategy consulting. And if you look at it, that means you have to learn how to use PowerPoint. You got to learn how to use Excel, some other data analysis tool. You got to learn how to do interviews, talk to people. And oh yeah, because you are typically flying to talk to people and going to client sites, think of this like as a plane. I don't know if I can draw a plane, but this is a plane. You're traveling a lot, usually Monday through Thursday is a typical routine. Depends on the firm that you're at. This is what it looks like. And when you combine all these things together, on average, you're probably working 50 to 70 hours a week. That's life. Maybe this guy isn't so happy. Maybe he's like this after 70 hours. Economic consulting, it's a little bit different. Start off, same guy over here, looking happy. Someone comes to you with a different kind of problem, which is, hey, I'm trying to merge together two different companies, A plus B. Government doesn't like that we're merging because we're kind of big. The government's worried that we'll become too big. So just to make up an example right now, let's say Facebook, I don't know why they would want to do this, wants to merge with Google. It's actually a terrible example. I'm gonna give a different example. Let's say Pete's Coffee wants to merge with Starbucks. They think somehow it'll help them compete in the market a bit more against third wave coffee. The company's gonna need to hire some economists to figure out, hey, if we do this, what do the numbers look like? How is this gonna impact our prices, our customers, all that good stuff. The government on the other side, and again, this is just for the US, DOJ, big bad DOJ, is going to look at this and say, hey, don't think this is going to be a good idea. They're going to have a team of economists too to look at this, crunch numbers. So what does that mean? Instead of talking to people, you jump straight into boxes. You look at numbers all day. You're doing this in Excel, you're doing this in Python, you're doing this in whatever tool you need because you get a bunch of boxes of data to analyze. And instead of putting that into a PowerPoint presentation, you don't get a PowerPoint. You get a giant Word doc usually, or a memo. The term that we use was an expert report. It's usually like a 50 to 200 page document written up by the expert economic witness who has a PhD, bunch of fancy degrees, might have served as a professor somewhere. And this is the final thing that you're doing. So what are the skills that you're learning? You're learning a lot of data analysis, and then you're learning some writing skills, some structured communication, but really you're learning a crap ton of data. This middle part and this middle part look very similar to strategy consulting. You're going to work with teams. It looks exactly the same. Junior analyst, senior analyst, kind of middle manager who has a PhD in econ consulting or an MBA for strategy consulting. You have maybe a junior VP, and then you have your VP at the very top. VP is the one usually talking to all the clients, doing all the, business development type stuff, their names on the memo or the report. Then there's you at the bottom doing a lot of the grunt work. Kind of the same thing across the two, but really here you're just spending a lot more time on boxes and data, which is why some people end up doing data scientist or data analyst. Data analyst type work. How often do you work? Really depends up to you. The standard that I saw when I was working is somewhere close to 45 to 55 hours. There's no flying because you don't go to client sites. You end up working a little bit less. Doesn't necessarily mean it's less stressful. You still have to work some weekends. I personally worked about a third of the weekends during the 2 years that I was in econ consulting, but not so bad compared to some of my strategy friends. So there you have it. If you think econ consulting is right for you, you like boxes, you want to work a little bit less, you like earning money, and you want good options, this might be right for you.